What up and welcome everyone back once again to the Dirty Lounge. With you as always, I am your host, The Dirty Saiyan. If you haven't already, please be sure to smash that like button, post up in the comment section below, subscribe to the channel, and be sure to ring that notification bell and choose all to be alerted to future content on the channel. It really helps me out and gets me up in that algorithm the more you guys interact with all these things. Today's going to be a special video where I'm going to talk about how I use or how I go through my process to make thumbnails. As a forewarning, everything I'm going to go over is purely my own personal preference and how I do things and the apps that I use. Obviously, there's tons of choices out there for apps to use for editing digital media, and the functions that each one's offer you are going to be slightly different. So you might have some options I don't have, and vice versa. But I'm just going to go through my process, and hopefully it's going to help some of you guys out and you content creators out there that want to make your own art, and it's just going to make your life easier, hopefully. So I'm going to briefly go over the apps that I use, and then I'll go into specifics on what steps I take thereafter within each app. But enough of all that, folks. Let's roll into that intro, get into some creative process fun, and let's go. Alright guys, welcome back and thank you for joining me today. Let's quickly get into the apps that I utilize for making thumbnails. So first up, we've got the background remover app. We've got the IBIS X Paint app that I use to modify the PNG renders once I've gotten them. We've got the photo layers app that I use to actually create the thumbnail itself. And there are two websites that I utilize as well. One is for the text that I use. It's a really good website. And then there's another website that I utilize for transitioning the file from PNG to JPG at the end of my process. But so with the background removal app, what it does is it allows us to take a full-on picture render that has a background, and we can remove that background, and we're left with only the character render that we want from the picture itself. So I do this whenever I don't like or I don't feel like using the default PNG renders that you can easily find on dbz.space for Legends, so they're character renders. Those renders are okay to use, don't get me wrong, I do use them sometimes, a lot of people do, but they don't always have the best quality, and I find that that's especially true for the older ones. So I find myself looking for others through Google search. Typically I look for HD ones that are already transparent background, so it's just the character model itself rendered. Typically, I will try to find renders online that have either a solid color background or at least ones that are not very complicated. It makes the background removal process that much easier for me personally. So we find the picture file that we like and with the character on it that we like, and we load it up into the background removal app. We'll go ahead and open that here now. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. The first thing we want to do is grab the character render itself. I've got one saved here already. Just kind of give you an idea what I do. I search on Google. I found a Gogeta one here that I really liked. It's got a nice little glow to it. We'll go ahead and save this. I already have it saved, but we'll just close out of here. Get into the background removal app. Click on the middle of the screen, and we're going to load the Gogeta picture here, second row. And there we go. Click on done, and it'll load it in. The first thing we're going to want to do is move the slider at the very top all the way to 0. And this is the cursor offset, so it's going to make wherever we touch, that's going to be where the cursor's at. If you have the offset set to max, the cursor will be, slightly above wherever your finger is touching. So you use that as you need to. If you notice, there you go. All right, second thing you want to do is click on the auto button and move this slider all the way to max, right above it. This will take all light colors and include them in the deletion. So we'll do that. Get rid of this side over here to the left and at the top. And you'll notice there's still some more around the edges. It's not really very clean. So we're going to take one more layer off of this and get that darker blue hue off the edge of the PNG. So once I get all this area taken off, we'll continue on. Yeah, it just makes it a little bit cleaner if you can see that. Alright, you want to make sure you get around the entire PNG render. There's some more up here, get rid of that. And there's a couple at the top here as well. We'll We'll zoom in. Oh, you can zoom in and out using the pinch motion with your fingers like pretty much any other app out there. Get rid of that. And one more. Get rid of that. And now I'm pretty happy with this. It looks pretty clean. We're going to zoom back out to max. And then once we click on done here, now that we're finished and we like what we've got, we're going to be able to choose the smoothness of the pixelation around the entire PNG. So let's go ahead and click on done here in just a moment. And there you go. You see the smooth 0 to 5 are the levels. 0 being the least amount of layers taken off of that outer edge, where 5 being the most, where it actually removes several layers. I typically hover around the 2 to 3 range, gives me the cleanest one. It really depends on the PNG. Some are different than others. But for this case, I think I'm going to go with 2 on this particular render. And it's going to clean up the outer edges of the PNG and kind of get rid of some of that pixelation for us. Just make it a little bit cleaner. All right, now that we're done with that, we click on save. We're done. And now we're going to bring this into the IBIS Paint X program. So we're going to open that up, that app up right here. We're going to click on My Gallery. Click on the button in the bottom left. Import picture at the top. And then we're going to choose the Gogeta picture that we just saved in our picture files here. Oh, I'm sorry, the eraser files. All right, click on that. We're going to click cancel because we don't want a line drawing. We want the actual PNG we've got here. And the first thing we're going to do is click on the paintbrush at the bottom left there. And we're going to click on effects or filter, but it says FX filter. So we'll click on that little button there. And there's lots of different functions in here that you can use. You just want to play around with that. The one we're going to be using today is going to be the glow outer edge. So we want to use that one. It's towards the end here. Click on that. And it gives us a nice little extra blue buffer zone around our entire PNG. I'm going to lower the intensity of this blue hue here a little bit. Get it closer to a cyan color, maybe a baby blue. Yeah, that might be a little bit too light, but you can change the thickness, as you notice, sliding this up and down. Max gives you the whole dang screen. We don't want that. I usually stick around 5 to 7, depends on the PNG once again. So we'll make this a little bit darker. There we go. And you can also create a crystallize effect on the outer edge by clicking on the crystal glow switch at the top of this little window right here. As you can see, it'll give us a nice little crystallized effect around the entire outside edge when we click on that. So let me go ahead and do that here in just a moment. And there you go. See, it makes it a little bit thicker, and it gives you that like little spiky type edge that crystals do when they're making, you know, kind of like a fractal type thing going on the edges. If you were to zoom in and look at it, but I'm not going to use it for this one. We're just going to click on the green arrows to save. The arrow at the bottom right, we're going to click there, and we're going to save as transparent PNG. You don't want to save it as a PNG because that'll give you the white background that we don't need. Then we'd have to erase that as well. Now we're going to go into the Photo Layers app. And we're going to get the process going on this thumbnail creation. This is the meat and potatoes here, folks. All right, click on the middle of the screen. What you want to do is find a template on Google search for thumbnails. It'll give you the proper sizing for the thumbnail itself. I've already got one saved myself in my downloads. So let's go ahead and click on my download folder here. And then we'll grab that. Should be towards the middle bottom. There we go. Click on that little blue one. And there you go. As you can see, nice little template. You want to grab something like this from YouTube or from Google search, and it'll just make your life easier just having this template already ready to go whenever you're doing thumbnails. What I like to do is change the color with the color slider at the bottom of the screen here, either to black or all white, depending on what I'm doing. Typically I'll use black because it's better for the glow effects. You get a higher contrast with the glow effects, so you can see what you're doing better. White kind of tends to wash out those glow effects, so it's not as useful in that respect. So once we've done that, we click on close, and then we've got ourselves a all black template ready to go and start our work. So that's our background. We're not going to click on background ever again. We're going to click on add photo. We're going to click on the Ibis X or Ibis Paint X picture that we saved just a little bit ago. That'll be in my picture folder here. We'll click there, and then we'll grab the, oh dang it, I clicked the wrong one, sorry. We're going to go ahead and click on it here. And then we'll choose that one we just created in Ibis X. This one right here. Oh, I'm sorry. Never mind. We're gonna throw some word text in the background real fast first. I just realized I like to do. We're gonna set the tone for the rest of the thumbnail by having a little bit more in the background than just a plain black background. So I've got this this Zenkai text here that I created by erasing a bunch of excess outside of the original Zenkai logo. But you just move it around and resize it to how you want it to look. I typically do this for you know, just for aesthetic effect. It's kind of boring having everything, all the text straight across the screen, especially when it's something like this where it's kind of stylized. We'll go into the colors and we'll get the contrast up, and then we'll change the hue. I typically like to match it up to whatever the unit is I'm using. So in this case, it's more of a blue / cyan. It's kind of a darker blue than cyan, so we'll move this warmth slider all the way to the left. It'll make the coloring hot or cold based on if you're going from, well, from, if the farther right you go, the hotter the image or the coloring will look, and if you go cold, it'll be the opposite direction, obviously, to the left. So once you've got your color and you're happy with it, you just go ahead and close that out. You can also do blur and stuff like that. Obviously, that's self-explanatory. You can change the opacity, so you can make it invisible or, you know, solid based on that. And again, once you play around with this and you just kind of tinker with it a little bit and you get used to the controls and you're happy with that, finally you'll click on close, and then we'll move on and we'll throw something on top of that Zenkai. Oh, I'm sorry, actually, what first thing I want to do, we go into the shadow, and we give it a nice blue shadow, full on opacity, and then you can move the blur slider to give it the glow diffusion of the light farther away or closer to the actual PNG. So the farther right this slider goes, the more diffusion of light you get around that glow. So if it's closer, obviously it's going to be to the left. So once you're happy with that, you can, and again, you can mess around with these colors and offsets and all kinds of weird things. But you go there, and we're going to go and click add photo once again. We're going to drop in some more stuff. I've got plenty of energy effects, which can also be found on dbz.space for Legends. They've got some amazing energy effect renders. I've got some of them here. I'll pick this one, and I will pick the 16 and 9 or by 9 aspect ratio, and then I'll just move the affected area that I want to use. So you can go up or down on the full picture just like this. And you can also use the free option all the way to the left, which will allow you to size it yourself. But I like using the 16 by 9 because it's exactly the size for the thumbnail. So we're going to grab this portion, click OK, and then we're going to click on the fit button at the bottom left. And that'll fit it to the entire area. play with these sliders to give it the glow effect that we want for these little energy sprites. And sometimes I'll mess around with this for way more time than I really should, but this is the kind of stuff that gets me going. I enjoy doing the little tiny things and the little details. So for glow stuff, I typically increase the contrast and the saturation to the maximum, just because it gives us a really brighter and more interesting pop on the glow effect itself. So we're doing the shadow on these as well, and we want to give them not too much of a glow diffusion around it, just a little bit, so that they're just kind of pushing some light off into space around each little mote. And then once we're happy with the outcome of all this, we click on close. And now for the meat and potatoes, we're going to actually go and add photo again, and we're going to click on the Ibis Paint X Gogeta that we had saved just a little while ago. Leave the default, and we're just going to move it around a little bit. I'm going to actually kind of angle him so that he's matching the Zenkai text behind him. Just a little bit of a tilt to him, and then we're going to zoom, resize him out so that the top and bottom of the PNG is going off screen just a little bit. So that's pretty neat. We're going to give him the glow effect with the shadow as well. I don't want this actually to be super cyan, so we're going to move the green slider down to about half and give him a full-on glow. Just diffuse that light all over the place. Gives it a nice little effect. All right. So now that we're happy with this guy, there's something else that I typically like to do, and that is to place a border around my thumbnails. You can go on to Google search and look for rectangles or squares or whatever it may be, but you want to look for transparent background PNGs for those types of things, and you can utilize those for your borders. Makes life easier. I've got some stuff saved. I've got this metallic one that I've been using a little bit recently, so we'll grab that one, and I'm just going to resize it so that I can get it to fit properly the way I like on the edges. You can always click on fit and it'll drop it back to the default that it drops in on. If you screw up and stuff goes off the screen and you can't find where you're trying to move the object around, that's fine. Okay, and then once everything is cool and you've got it all set up with the spacing away from the edge that you like, we're pretty much done with the border. Now you can also change the opacity. You can change the color. You can make it all white, all black, straight up like solid colors as well, using the color sliders. And you can also give it a glow just like you can any other PNG. I usually do that as well. In this case, we're just going to leave it like this because I like the metallic edge look. It kind of looks like there's something sitting on top of metal, like the thumbnail itself is sitting on top of metal, which is cool. I like that effect. It kind of gives it more of a 3D look, pops out a little bit more at you. And what you want to do on the left-hand side, each one of those things, those objects on the left side, is a layer. So you can move those layers up and down in the foreground. And now we're going to go into the text. This is the website I use, flamingtext.com. I've already got some texts created, so this is what we're going to use for the text. But I've already created this, so I've got some stuff set up. But we'll go to just show you the process here. Lots of different styles that you can choose from. The text itself. And you can change the font to whatever you want. So don't think that just because there's a specific font on any of these styles that's being displayed that you have to use that font. You can change whatever font you want. I like to use this one quite often. It's one of my more favorite ones to use, water. So we'll change the slider here first thing, font size all the way to max, which is where the line is at. If you go any further, you have to pay for a subscription service to this website, which I'm not gonna do, to be honest. I don't need to. But this gives us a higher quality PNG image. The more we scale it up within our thumbnail, the less quality resolution we're going to be losing. So you want to make this as large as possible each time and bring it right up to the line. So once you've done that, I actually like this specific font, so we're going to leave it as is. But you can click on the font in the middle of the screen there where it says Espresso. And there's some other stuff you can use, like the alignment. So you can go left alignment, right alignment, and center. So the left and right, you're not really going to see that very much until you start getting into multiple lines of text, in which case then it will be noticeable. So let's go whatever, nerd. And as you can see, this is the center alignment, so the word nerd is centered in the middle right there underneath whatever. We can move it to the right, and it gives you this. Move it to the left, similar thing in the opposite effect. Cool, cool. So depending on what your thumbnail looks like, you might want to move these texts around in this manner, so you can kind of work around the objects within your thumbnail. Really useful to know to do this. We'll leave this as centered for now. No reason not to. And then we're going to get into the coloring. I like to use a pure white center a lot of times. Not always, but it is the highest contrast color that you can use on a PNG, especially a darker one. So it's going to give you the most pop out of your words. It's going to jump out of the screen at you. And then this particular style of font that we're using gives us 3 different layers of coloring and textures that we can use. So the second layer, what I want to do is what I typically use is this metallic looking one here, and I'll change it to the text option radial right underneath it, and that gives us a nice couple of lines of light source going, or what appears to be light source going across that metallic texture or gradient. And then we're going to make the third color is going to be an outline in all black. So we're going to increase the size of this outline a little bit, give it some pop, and we're also going to make it purely black. And you can adjust these as needed. So whatever you want to do. I like my text to be kind of stand out-ish. So bigger outlines are going to give you that effect. And I've noticed, especially with these types of the gradient metallic effects on the second outline, or the first outline, sorry. All right, so that looks pretty neat, right? We're going to get rid of the background and make it transparent by clicking on the transparent radial on the type selection there. And that'll give us the PNG transparent background for the text. I'm going to click on shadow. You can screw around with shadows, but I don't typically in the text functions here, because I can do the same thing in photo layers. So once you do all this, you click on the text itself on the final page, you save it, download the image, and then we're going to go back into photo layers. I'm sorry, we're going to go into IBIS Paint first, and we're going to bring that text up. We're going to give it some lighting effect using the relief filter. So click on the paintbrush. Okay, get rid of this. Paintbrush. There we go. And then go on FX filter. We're going to look for relief, just right there. I like to keep it around 75. That's my ideal area to stay around. height is going to be the light source where it's at. Imagine the light source above or closer to the text. So I usually go for maximum on this. And then the smoothness slider at the very bottom, all the way to the right, is going to give you a rounded edge look to it. And then all the way down is going to give you a more like fractal looking light source. So it kind of textures the light going over the text. I like the smooth a lot more, so I typically use it a lot more in my thumbnails and stuff. Okay, click on the little check marks twice to get it saved on those changes. Once again, click it on the green. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. You can also change the light source area within this circle. You go outside the circle, no more light source. Imagine it like a light going over the horizon, so you no longer have a light source. So within the light source circle here, it'll give you a different angle of light coming in on your text. Once you're happy with that, then we save it by clicking on the check mark. Save it again to PNG, transparent PNG in the bottom right corner. And then we go back into the thumbnail that we still got open. And we're gonna oh nope, wrong one, sorry. There we go. So we got whatever nerd. We're just gonna center it where we want to keep it. And I try not to have the letters of the text hit the border. I want it to look like it's within the thumbnail itself and not on the border. So we don't want it to kind of cross over the way that the character is. So we give it a nice little glow. You can do a black background glow, and that'll give it more of a shadowy effect. So it's like casting a shadow onto that. That'll give you some nice 3D feel to the image as well. For this case, though, we're just gonna go with a nice little glow. And then we save it, and that's it. That's what we got. And then the final step, we're going to open up the PNG to JPEG conversion site, and it's PNG to JPG.com is what I use. So we just find that find that thumbnail that we just created. We load it up, and then we transition that and download it. Now what this is going to do is going to take the size of this particular thumbnail from like 1.4 megabytes down to like 227 or so kilobytes. So it's basically like 4 or 5 times smaller size than the other compression, like for PNG. So it'll allow you to always make sure that you can place the thumbnail in your YouTube video in YouTube Studio, and it won't give you the little annoying message like your thumbnail size has to be less than 2 megabytes. So that'll get rid of that problem. But that's it for this video, guys. What we're going to be doing next time is I'm going to walk you through how to create an overlay as well, using all these same programs for the most part. So that's all I've got, guys. I really enjoyed going through all this for you guys and showing you how my process goes. I'm really excited to do this series, and I can't wait to get into the next one. So you guys stay safe, have a great week, and we'll catch you in the next video. Peace.